faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world.
Hey there, I'm Zima. Today I'll be interpreting Joseph Conrad's novella, Part of Darkness. Conrad's hailed as the 20th century's top nautical novelist.
Born in Poland in 1857, he joined a British ship at 21, became a citizen soon after, and started writing novels. In 1890, Conrad captained a steamship and traveled to Congo, then a Belgian colony. A decade later, in 1900, he published Heart of Darkness, based on that trip, telling the story of African natives and white colonists. Later, with World War I and World War II breaking out and many African colonies gaining independence, the novel got more attention. In the 1970s, American director Coppola blended the Vietnam War into this story, creating the film masterpiece, Apocalypse Now.
All this gradually placed Heart of Darkness among the century's classic novels.
In 1998, Modern Library under Random House compiled a list of the 20th century's top 100 English-language literary works. Heart of Darkness made the list.
The protagonist of Heart of Darkness is Captain Marlow. At dusk on the Thames estuary, he sits on a boat telling his first-hand story to fellow captains.
It's a tale no one's ever heard or imagined.
On his dark journey, Marlow enters a shadowy, mysterious continent in West Africa.
There, he meets an unforgettable man, Kurtz, another key character, a white colonist.
So, why go to Africa?
In the 1870s, European powers were colonizing Africa, sparking a rush of adventurers eager to strike it rich. Marlowe's that kind of adventurer, naturally drawn to mysteries. As a kid, he'd stare for hours at maps of South America, Africa, or Australia, dreaming of grand expeditions. He's been to many places by now, but the mysterious Congo River basin remains untouched. To him, the Congo River's like a huge, mysterious serpent, head on the sea, body winding across the land, tail vanishing deep into the continent. For Marlow, the Congo River basin in Central Africa was an absolutely mysterious destination he was determined to explore. Heart of Darkness.
Marlow said that serpent mesmerized him, so he decided to go to Africa. Through his aunt's connections, he got invited by a Belgian trading company to head to Congo.
Marlow's aunt and the company both spouted high ideals, saying, "We're civilized whites. Our duty is to build Africa and save the savage Africans." But Marlow also heard that people who went to Africa had their mental states changed. Some were gentlemen, but once in Congo, they fought with the natives, and some even lost their lives.
What has Africa brought us?
With all this curiosity, Marlow left Belgium and journeyed far to the Congo Company, which had an outer trading post at the Congo River's mouth. Here, Marlow finally saw what the white colonizers meant by building Africa. For example, the colonizers claimed to build railways for Africa, but really, they just planted bombs randomly on hills, destroying the virgin forest. For instance, colonizers from major powers fought over territory on the coast, and the trade station was a chaotic mess with nothing decent. Boilers overturned in the grass, train cars lying wheels up, rusted rails, machine parts rotting away. Seeing this, Marlow cried out, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything so lacking in reality in my life." A colleague of Marlow's at the trade station was a big guy, over 200 pounds, knew nothing about work, was super weak, fainted on walks, and had to be carried by porters. But porters. When Marlow was ready to leave, he found the ship assigned to him had sunk. Turns out another company group took it without permission and hit a reef. Marlow was speechless and had to find people to salvage and repair it himself.
But this wasn't easy at the trade station. Marlow couldn't even find rivets to fix the ship, so he struggled for 3 months to get it done.
During those 3 months, he stopped believing in the so-called civilization saving the savages. He saw that whites in Africa had only one ability left: to enslave the natives and force them to work. And these natives puzzled Marlow even more. Their eyes held a deathly indifference, and their language was incomprehensible. They were chained by the neck by white men, forced to work, and could die at any moment.
But at the sight of flames, they'd instantly get excited and dance around it.
Looking at these natives and then at the brutal, foolish white men, Marlow felt this was truly a world neither human nor ghostly. Amid this chaos, he heard the legend of the adventurer Kurtz. Kurtz was sent by the company to Africa over a year ago to handle ivory procurement. He went deep along the Congo River and soon shipped out boatloads of ivory, more than all other company trading posts combined. Soon, Kurtz became a legend, a star in colonial circles. What amazed Marlow even more was Kurtz's immense prestige among the African natives. Marlow desperately wanted to meet this extraordinary man, but mystery followed. In over a year stationed in Africa, Kurtz never emerged from the Congo's depths. Other colonizers knew Kurtz only by reputation. No one had seen him. Marlow heard Kurtz once returned with an ivory shipment, but after 300 miles, suddenly took a canoe alone with 4 native paddlers and turned back, as if sucked back by the Congo's dark heart. What on earth was happening? Marlow decided to retrace Kurtz's path, find him, and bring him back. After preparing the boat, supplies, and crew, he set sail. Along the way, Marlow witnessed scenes unlike anything he'd ever seen. He said the voyage felt like returning to a primal world, an empty river, boundless silence, impenetrable forest. Nature felt menacing. The air and water seemed to hold unfathomable motives and invisible power. Natives along the shore, even some white men, screamed and gestured wildly at the boat, while native slaves and white passengers shouted back insanely. Marlow felt himself descending into darkness. At a river fork near Kurtz's trading post, Marlow's boat took a wrong turn. As they drifted confusedly, natives suddenly emerged from shore shooting arrows. The whites on board saw this and started shouting madly, threatening to eat the savage's flesh. The helmsman grabbed a carbine and fired wildly, but was shot dead by an arrow, so Marlow had to take the helm himself. Oh, no. Oh. Panicking, he steered the boat away from there! After many twists and turns, they finally reached Kurtz's trading post. A trader came out to greet them, explaining that the natives attacked earlier to protect Kurtz. It turned out Kurtz had truly become one of the African savage tribe. The natives revered him like a god, crawling in and out when visiting him daily. Kurtz could arbitrarily seize ivory, destroy homes, and cut off rebels' heads, hanging their skulls on fence posts. The whites on board immediately disembarked, but what kind of person finally appeared before Marlow? Unlike the imposing tribal leader he imagined, Kurtz was gravely ill, lying on a stretcher, looking emaciated, so thin that his ribs were visible, arms skeletal, yet he still stretched out with a commanding presence, his ghostly eyes gleaming coldly.
Then Kurtz propped himself up, bared his teeth, showing a greedy expression.
The novel writes that it seemed he wanted to devour the entire sky, earth, and everyone before him. Then he suddenly collapsed again, and Marlow carried him out and placed him in the cabin. At first, natives came out with weapons, trying to reclaim Kurtz, but as soon as the whites fired shots, they retreated into the forest. In the following days, natives kept harassing them. The whites on board chanted spells, beat drums, and screamed. Unable to bear it, they went ashore to attack the natives. Seizing the opportunity, Kurtz actually crawled out of the cabin in his sickly state, trying to escape back to the forest amidst the chaos. Marlow caught up with him. Kurtz begged Marlow to let him go back, but Marlow said no. You must come with me. Then he forcibly carried Kurtz back onto the boat. As they set sail back, over 2,000 savages surged out from the woods. A huge crowd waved bunches of black feathers and a dogskin towards the boat, chanting mysterious spells together. It turned out there was a female savage who repeatedly tried to storm onto the boat. She was Kurtz's lover. Lying in the boat, Kurtz understood what those outside were shouting, but could only feel both longing and resentment. Into praise, cut, cut. Looking back at that wilderness, as the boat sailed farther away, Kurtz's life force rapidly dimmed, and he grew weaker day by day. A few days later, he finally breathed his last breath on the boat. Just before dying, Kurtz seemed to see a phantom before his eyes, and he softly called out to it twice. The horror, the horror. Marlow's adventure ends here. Recalling the days spent with Kurtz, Marlow said, I saw in Kurtz a soul unrestrained, faithless, fearless, yet blindly struggling with itself. Marlow no longer envied Kurtz's adventure, nor did he desire to replicate it. He had expected to meet a true adventurer, but the real Kurtz was a man struggling bitterly. After returning, Marlow also fell ill like Kurtz, seriously so. He said, I was wrestling with death, the most boring battle I could imagine. It was conducted in a vast gray gloom, treading on emptiness, dwelling in nothingness, with no spectators or cheers. There was no glory, no desire for triumph, nor surprise or fear of defeat. At the novel's end, Marlow returned to reality. Back on the boat at the Thames estuary, the novel ends by writing, a band of dark clouds stretched over the distant sea, and the quiet river flowing to the ends of the earth moved gloomily under the overcast sky, as if flowing into a vast, boundless heart of darkness. Thus ends Heart of Darkness. This short novella has been widely read and discussed since its publication in 1900. The famous British literary critic Leavis placed Conrad alongside Jane Austen, Eliot, Lawrence, Henry James, calling them the greats of English literature. As a great legacy, in 2001, Nobel laureate Naipaul wrote a book, Conrad's Darkness, My Darkness, to pay tribute to Conrad's work. And, as the title suggests, what the darkness in Heart of Darkness refers to has been a topic of endless discussion for over a century. Simply put, we can understand the meaning of Heart of Darkness from three levels. First, the literal meaning refers to the heart of the African continent. And for Westerners over a century ago, this was a completely unknown region that they needed to bring light to illuminate everything and incorporate it into the map of the known world. For Marlow, the Congo River Basin in Central Africa was an absolutely mysterious destination he was determined to explore. It can be said that every reader who follows Marlow's journey and immerses themselves in the novel finds it unforgettable. The landscape of this African land is entirely another world, with different life forms, languages, natural environments, and an indescribable aura of mystery. In Conrad's writing, the Congo River Basin is filled with an atmosphere of peril. Even the brutal enslavement of natives by whites, the threats and shouts from natives towards whites, and Marlow's feelings towards Kurtz are all enigmatic. This feeling is largely due to Conrad's symbolic style. In Western novels from the late 19th to early 20th century, naturalism was the dominant style. That is, it faithfully depicts characters, environments, etc., with every detail presented to readers like a classical oil painting. However, Conrad's use of symbolism makes all landscapes, characters, and events detach from their real forms, floating on the page like impressionist paintings, becoming patches of color. 1. These colors convey the inner feelings of characters and reflect the themes the author wants to emphasize. The storyline advances subtly within these large patches of color, giving readers a unique sense of mystery. This advanced writing style achieves its strongest effect in Heart of Darkness. Conrad successfully permeates his theme of darkness into every corner of the novel. Darkness is like a pack of running beasts, lurking around the characters and also pursuing the novel's readers. The protagonist Marlow begins his narration precisely at the moment when dusk is falling. He said he gradually delved deeper into Africa. Finally, he found a half-man, half-ghost Mr. Kurtz. When he emerged from this suffocating atmosphere to announce the story's end, he and his listeners were already deeply engulfed in the dusk, unable to see each other clearly. It can be said that this story's unique impact has significantly changed how readers view Africa, the world, and their own reality.
But it is precisely because of this impact that Heart of Darkness faced criticism from some African writers in the 1970s and 80s.
They argue this novel has strong racist undertones, severely misleading readers into confusing fiction with reality.
Truly portraying Africa as a sunless alien planet like land. Actually, Conrad clearly didn't intend this. Through symbolic writing, he enveloped everything in darkness. That primitive African ecology mirrors the colonists' inner world. This is the second layer of meaning in Heart of Darkness. In the book, whites plunder, destroy, and slaughter under civilization's banner. They endlessly smuggled ivory, enslaved and killed natives, lived in idle incompetence, a stark contrast to their gentlemanly European personas. Those heroic tales of civilizing savages, just lies masking their exposed dark humanity on this dark land. Mr. Kurtz embodies the typical white colonist. He raided villages, hunted ivory, tyrannized natives, even decorated his home with their skulls. He didn't civilize savages, as whites claimed. Instead, he conquered Africa's darkness with his own darkness. Yet Kurtz differed. After reaching Congo's dark heart, he refused to return to the white world. He shipped ivory but rejected fame and wealth, preferring to live among savages, even dying untreated rather than leaving. Wah! When Marlow rescued him, Kurtz withered like an uprooted plant and soon died. He seemed utterly transformed by the darkness.
His dying words, the horror, reveal the third layer of meaning.
Africa absorbed the conquerors. Land's darkness merged with heart's darkness, fusing good and evil. Civilization merged with savagery. Colonial conquerors shed civilization's disguise, revealing faces indistinguishable from Africa's primal essence. So we can't say Heart of Darkness portrays Africa in a negative light. In the book, both the conquering white colonists and conquered African tribes reflect the human crisis facing modern society. The white world boasts of its civilization. Yet Kurtz's adventure and corruption expose this civilization's fragility. Whites are no different from primitive tribes. Regardless of faith, when plundering others, the same darkness surges within. On this dark land, there's no essential difference between civilized enlightenment and primitive savagery in human darkness. Kurtz is complex. Unlike other whites, an inner force pulls him back. He wants to escape vulgar white society, intoxicated by Africa's primal power, attempting to join it for salvation. But ultimately suspended between white civilization and African darkness, he couldn't return to his world nor truly enter Africa's primal forest. And his path to self-redemption failed. And his dying cry, the horror, is the novel's ultimate warning to humanity. Kurtz saw clearly. The world begins in darkness, ends in darkness. Darkness eternally resides in human hearts. Heart of Darkness captures a crucial historical moment in European imperial expansion. Whether Africa's colonial brutality or human darkness, all seem to hold terrifying energy that attracts every generation. People across eras and backgrounds find their themes. Historians see colonial acts. Travelers see exotic landscapes. Philosophy lovers see inner exploration. Yet the most discussed remain the novel's insights into humanity and the civilization's savagery dynamic. Through this mere 50,000-word novel, Conrad warns, every affluent modern person risks similar corruption, may fall into moral traps, may never find true belonging. That Conrad voiced this over a century ago shows profound prescience. Critic Levy's marveled at this prophetic writer. The genius of creative minds like Conrad lies in their acute sensitivity to their era. He sensed early shifts in the zeitgeist, changes that pressured him into writing unprecedented works in unprecedented ways. Because of its prescience, Heart of Darkness received little attention during its first decade, but when WWN erupted in 1914, over 10 million died and 20 million were wounded in 4 years. Civilized society's self-destruction shocked the world. They discovered Heart of Darkness had chillingly predicted humanity's savagery beneath civilization's mask. Poet T.S. Eliot directly drew inspiration from it for his era-defining poems, The Wasteland and The Hollow Men. He compared modern humanity's psyche to a wasteland, echoing Conrad's earlier prophecy of modern crisis. World War I's wounds hadn't healed.
World War II erupted in 1939, deadlier, longer, and bloodier than World War I.
Post-war, it triggered independence waves across Asia, Africa, and Latin America.
Endless global conflicts drove many back to Heart of Darkness for answers. Through this novel, people saw current chaos as imperialism's legacy, realizing Western civilization was built on humanity's corruption. Thus, the civilization couldn't stop humanity's collapse but ignited more conflicts and savagery. From the 1950s to early 2000s, Far East, Southeast Asia, Africa, Balkans, Russia, Middle East, wherever war raged, people reread Heart of Darkness. Most famously, director Coppola released the classic film Apocalypse Now in 1979. The film's backdrop was brutal. Its Vietnam War story drew entirely from Conrad's novel. Protagonist Kurtz, played by Marlon Brando, descends into madness in a sunless war world. Beyond this, artists adapted Heart of Darkness into operas, and painters created diverse artworks inspired by it. Many documentary photographers name their works Heart of Darkness, hoping people will pay attention to the suffering scenes they captured. It can be said that as long as there is an unrestful corner in today's world, people will recall Heart of Darkness. Every person living in the modern world, even if living peacefully, will hear its lingering alarm and think of a dark abyss of humanity that opens its maw, lurking beneath all we possess. All right, that concludes our interpretation of Conrad's classic novel, Heart of Darkness. The listening notes are below the audio. See you next time.